Yo, I'm back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another installment of BrickWall Reviews, where even though we go through creative slumps, we still find a way back here. And what better movie to bring me out of my slump, bring me forth, bring me close to the blaze of glory once more to review again than Scooby-Doo 2. It is 20 years since the release of Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. And matter of fact, that 20th anniversary was a couple weeks ago, actually, at the end of March. And boy, oh boy, do I have fond memories of this movie. So I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you about the story. I'm not going to give you a review as if I just watched it for the first time, as well as my reviews when I was a kid, because I think that would be pretty fun. Just came up down the spot. We're live, baby, live. But before I get into it, I remind you guys, go ahead and hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. I know we've been so bad of content. But if you've been subscribed to the Instagram page, you saw one review from about a week or two ago, maybe about a week ago, of Ghostbusters Afterlife. I had a little bit to say about that. And if you stay tuned to the channel after today, not after today, but after this here review, there's going to be a review for the real Titans getting to the battle. The real Titans on the field. Once again, Godzilla, Kong. Make sure you check that review out when this one's over. And, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. We've still been doing the Last BrickWall podcast, although we just came back from a hiatus on that one, too. So the whole brand is back, baby. So, getting into it, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. Roll Raggy. I love this movie. No, seriously, though. But I love this movie. Obviously, this is a sequel to the 2002 Scooby-Doo live-action movie, which, let me tell you something. I had never been so excited to see anything ever in my entire adolescent life than I was to see the live-action Scooby-Doo, where are you? Like, that movie, for me, I watched it every day when I had it on DVD. I watched the commentary. I watched the behind-the-scenes features. There was like a super-duper special secret feature on the DVD that you had to hit a certain button at a certain time in order to unlock. I watched all the behind-the-scenes stuff. I watched everything. I loved that movie. The performances were great. You had Matthew Lillard as Shaggy. You had Freddie Prinze Jr. as who else? Fred. You had Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne, and you had Linda Cardellini, fine ass, as Velma, which I couldn't appreciate Linda Cardellini back then because I was only watching the movies just to watch the movies. But when I grew up and I saw another stuff, I said, hey, that's Velma from Scooby-Doo. She's hot. Anyway, and then you have the titular character himself, the dog of mystery, Scooby-Doo, Ruby Roo. The first movie was amazing. To me, the first movie, I loved it so much as a kid. I thought it was one of the greatest things, one of the most funniest things in the world. And really briefly, looking back on it, I watched that movie again. I thought it was just as good, if not funnier, because for those who don't know, that first Scooby-Doo movie was supposed to be an adult movie. It was supposed to be, more of a parody of Scooby-Doo than what we got. But what we got was still really, really good, and I still really enjoy it. And the jokes still hold up and are still just as funny as they were then today. And fun tidbit, that movie was written by James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy fame and the upcoming Superman movie fame and the Suicide Squad. Just that guy, that guy. He wrote these movies. So it's just really cool. This is a really cool movie, the first one. But we're here to talk about the second one. The second Scooby-Doo movie, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. I remember what would be maybe 21 years ago, or 21 years ago, I remember the teaser trailer for Scooby-Doo 2 came out. And it was the teaser trailer. I wish I would have pulled it up. If I try to pull it up now, my computer's going to go, it's going to move a little slow because, we ain't really been using it much. But I remember that first teaser trailer, it had like the two little skeleton monsters. No. It had Scooby and Shaggy tiptoeing through like a dark warehouse, right? Then the announcer says, "What are you going to do?" Like, some type of, announcer stuff. We used to have trailer announcers, people. And then and like one of the parts where they were tiptoeing, you see the skeleton monster, they scream, they go, they end up in the mystery machine. It was so funny. I was like, yo, I have to see that movie. That movie looks so good. And so I I remember seeing it. I remember I was just talking. It's funny. I was just talking to my dad about this, right? So I was telling him about how, I was going to come here and talk about Scooby-Doo 2. And he was like, well, how was that? And I was like, you were there. We went into the movies and saw this. Like, we saw Scooby-Doo 2 in theaters. He doesn't remember it. I remember seeing it. This movie at the time for me was just like, it was so much better than the first one, right? Like, it was so much funnier. If you would ask me which one I prefer to watch, I would have told you Scooby-Doo 2, because the jokes were just, it was just so much more of a goofier movie than the first one, because it fully just embraced the comedic side of it, where the first one was kind of like, it started off as a more adult film and then was toned down to a kids film. This one was kids film through and through, kids and family through and through. There are so many parts in this movie that's just flooding back to my memory right now. It's just like the part where they got caught in the one trap inside of the house, and Scooby's like, they were like, they said something. Scooby's like, Ray have rookies. Like, it was just like Scooby in that movie was so funny. And so the movie, let me tell you about what the movie's about, in case you haven't seen it. The movie is about, so the Mystery Inc. gang, they are, of course, famous. They're at the height of their fame. They have a museum opening up dedicated to having exhibits of all of the monsters, because they're just guys in costumes. I'm gonna keep doing that too. But so it's like a museum that opens up, and it has basically all the costumes of the monsters that they amassed throughout their entire career. Well, what ends up happening is that this one, the villain of the film, whose name I don't even care to remember right now because it's really not that important, but the villain of the film shows up, and he's like, all the monsters are going to come alive now. Mr. Inc., you will be outed for the false, what was it? Yeah, for the frauds that you are, and something like that. So what happens is that he takes all the rest of the costumes, and it's discovered later on in the movie that he's turning them into real monsters. So they're fighting through their rogues gallery. Got a minor 49er, the one scuba diver guy. You got the cotton candy ghost, which was a hilarious scene. You have the electric dude. And you had, what's another one? They had Captain Cutler was the scuba diver dude. And then you had they had the pterodactyl ghost. I'm saying I'm struggling with this because it was like their actual rogues gallery. Like, you watch the actual Scooby-Doo show and you see a lot of their rogues gallery. There was a lot that weren't in there, but I understand why. But this movie, like, just seeing that rogues, the tar monster, and seeing all these creatures come to life. They had the Black Knight. I just keep remembering them. I just keep remembering. But so basically, you have to find a way to stop these monsters, not just from terrorizing the town, but from being created. And they also have to clear their name, because now the media is twisting them so that they seem like they hate Coosville. Or as Freddie said, I think Coosville sucks. And that's how he says it in the movie, but it was taken out of context. So they're trying to figure out how to stop this, how to save the day, et cetera, right? Of course, classic Scooby-Doo stuff. There's a subplot in the movie. There's a couple of subplots in the movie. One of them being that Scooby and Shaggy want to be taken more serious. They feel like the only reason the costumes really got taken was because they weren't taking things as serious as they could, man. We have to be real detectives. And let me just say that Matthew Lillard's performance as Shaggy, this goes without saying, but I'm going to freaking say it anyway. Matthew Lillard's performance as Shaggy is like the best one-to-one adaptation ever, man. Like, he did so good as Shaggy in these Scooby-Doo movies that he is today, to this day, the actual voice of Shaggy, who took over for the late, great Casey Kasem. Rest in peace. But he's amazing as Shaggy. He embodies that role so well. And it's just there were the part where they were trying to solve the mystery themselves. That was so funny. We're in the mansion, they're trying to solve the mystery themselves, and then they find the clue. Are they like looking for clues? Like, a clue. What are we gonna do, Scoob? Like, they were just so goofy. And then there was one part where they were doing an oath, and then like Shaggy said like all this stuff, and Scooby's like, rah, rah, rectacular. And I remember always laughing at that movie. This another subplot in there is that Velma is finding love. So Seth Green is also in this movie. He plays the guy who opened the museum curator, who they think is the person who's the bad guy at first, but he's actually not. Spoiler alert for a 20-year-old movie. And so Velma starts to fall for this guy. Like she's like really has this big crush on him. So Daphne's trying to help her, hey, embrace your femininity. And so like that's where you get the one part where Velma is dressed all sexy and everything like that. It's like, oh my God, is that Velma? But then like I said, that's just like Linda Cardellini has always been a baddie. I just didn't know that at the time because I'm just watching Scooby-Doo too. But I will say, Hot Velma caused a little bit of an awakening, if you know what I'm saying. You one day you're a young boy watching Scooby-Doo 2. The next exactly maybe about 47 minutes later, you're finding yourself thinking about certain things. Thinking about stuff, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's good to be back. Anyway, so there, like I said, not much of a point of me going through this entire movie like bar for bar. It's available on streaming right now. I believe HBO Max still has it on there. Last I checked, it was still on there. I actually have this movie on DVD, so I didn't need to go stream services. I just popped my DVD in and I watched this movie. And I love it. It's I love this movie, and I realized how much I actually love this movie. However, it is a little obnoxious, of course. You're watching a movie with Talking Dog, but there's so many things that are funny. Like this was one part when they went to the club to try to to confront all the bad guys that they all unmasked before to try to get answers. And like Scooby's dressed in like this afro, and he's like, "Hey there, baby," like sound like Barry White and shit. And then it's this part where Scooby, Shaggy, and Seth Green are trying to like act tough. Seth Green's like, "No, you gotta be tough. You gotta be real tough." He's like, "Rah, rah," and like they do like the screaming back and forth at each other. It was such a fun watch, something really fun to revisit. And I'm gonna be quite honest with you, I really only watched like a small portion of the movie. I just remember everything from it because I watched this movie literally every freaking day. On top of Scooby-Doo 2. Oh, no, not Scooby-Doo 2, Scooby-Doo 1. These movies, like when I had them and when I was able to watch them, I was always watching them. You know what I'm saying? But of course, that's a testament to the time because we had DVDs back then. You're popping your favorite movie, me, right? But anyway, but yeah, so this movie, looking back, if I were a kid, right, and this movie came out while I was a kid and I was doing YouTube, I was doing all these reviews and everything like that, you asked me, Dave, what do you think about that movie? What would you give that movie a skip? Was now what 10 or 11-year-old Dave, what do you think about this movie? I would tell you that I at the time I would have given it 5 stars. I would have said that this was a very funny movie. It leans into a lot of the comedy. The Shaggy and Scooby moments are like really what shines and what makes the movie. The monsters and the mystery to me was good at the time. The monsters were intimidating enough, not like super like, oh, I can't sleep tonight, but more like, wow, that was some good effects. It's pretty scary. So there are things like that, right? But you ask me now, I would give it like a 4.8. It'll drop down a couple points, but I think that's just because it did kind of get a lot brighter and a lot more childish, which I think it didn't hurt the film, but it didn't hurt the film. Now I feel like I'm being cynical, though. I feel like I'm being cynical. I feel like I'm not being honest about that. I feel like I'm just trying to say, oh, I'm older, so of course I give it a lesser rating. So I'm going to drop that, and I'm going to say I still give it 5 fucking stars. Because I'm thinking about this entire movie, I'm laughing in my head. Like, I'm cracking up because I'm remembering these parts that were just so freaking funny. Of course, your sense of humor changes as you get older because you see different types of forms of humor and stuff like that. But I still think that like for me to have been excited, because what I did towards the end of last year is I looked at how many movies are celebrating 20 years this year. Dog, we got a lot. I missed a few, and I got a lot more to go. And y'all gonna be surprised at some of the movies that turned 20 this year. It's like, holy shit. Like the year, tangent. The year 2004 was stacked, my boy. The year 2004, Honey Girl, was stacked. Oh my God, the amount of films that came out 20 years ago, the year 2004, how we won't have that anymore. We won't have that anymore. Yo, you have from lesser known films to even bigger films, and there's actually a film that I think about it that I have to review. There's like 3 films I have to review. Matter of fact, I will tell you, like you had, when you guys see the lineup, you'll be like, that was 20 years ago. Matter of fact, this isn't really like an ousting. I'm going to talk about this movie very soon, actually. But Shrek 2 was just put back out in theaters and just blew the pants off of Soul, Luca, and Turning Red's re-releases in theaters combined. And that was just one day. Shrek 2 came out in 2004, 20 years of Shrek 2. So now if you think about that, you think about all the other movies that came out 20 years ago, bro. There was a lot of those movies, people, that came out 20 years ago. So I'm excited to talk about that. Anyway, back to Scooby-Doo 2. So again, like just 20 years, knowing the impact that this movie has had on pop culture in 20 years. Granted, it hasn't been that big, but it solidified Matthew Lillard as Shaggy. I think oftentimes when people think about the Scooby-Doo live action movies, I think that a lot of the thought, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the thought were scenes from Scooby-Doo 2, because that was just the superior movie, in my opinion. The first one was very good. The first one is goated. For me, the first one is goated. But the second one is just so good. It's so funny. It's just, okay, so if I was being cynical, I would say maybe it is a little too goofy. Maybe it stops and goes out of its way to make one too many jokes. But again, the jokes to me, in my opinion, are balanced. They're good, but maybe it's just too much of them. The mystery, I've heard a lot of people say the mystery was predictable. I mean, when you watch it back, sure, but I mean, as a kid, I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, it was still a good mystery, you know, a couple of twists and turns that I feel like they worked hard for, but I mean, overall though, I mean, it was a dope movie, and I still do appreciate it. 20 years later, I think it's good, and I just heard recently Matthew Lillard is totally down to do a third live action Scooby-Doo movie and maybe make it more geared towards adults. So I mean, listen, it's all based on what they want to do. I know just because the actor says they want to do something does not mean it's going to happen. But if it does happen, I'm excited for it. But if not, I'm glad for what we had, the Scooby-Doo duology. And happy 20th anniversary, Scoob. I know I'm a little late, but I look back fondly on this film, and I knew that I had to talk about this for 20th anniversary. So definitely, if you are able to check out Scooby-Doo 2, like I said, it should be on Max. So check it out. Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. Go take a trip back down memory lane, nostalgia lane, have a good time, kick back, watch it with your kids if you got them, and just, hey, get a little stoned, man. Watch Scoob. But, you know, only if you're over the age of 21 and it's legal in your state to get, you know what I'm saying, all that good stuff. You know, disclaimer for the, you know, disclaimer. But anyway, that's all I have for you guys. And thank you all for tuning in. It's been fun being back. And just make sure you guys go ahead and check out all the previous reviews. Subscribe to the Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe here to the YouTube channel. Check me out everywhere on social media. I'm always on Twitter. So if you want to, or X rather. So if you ever want to send me a post on X, just, you know, holler at me. Do it. I'm there. And until next time, guys, y'all be easy. Stay breezy. Peace. Ruby dooby doo.